do.
As a U.S. citizen, we get so many rights and privileges. But did you know that we are all humans and we all make mistakes? So what if I told you that being human can cost you some of your rights? Yes, you heard me correct. Small mistakes can cause you to lose your right to vote in the United States. I feel like making mistakes are not in the same category as voting. Voting is a right as a U.S. citizen. Our elections are affected by felons not being allowed to vote, and taking their voting rights away is like taking their voice away. So back to my first point. Every U.S. citizen has the right to vote. In the United States, in the United States Constitution, the 14th Amendment states that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. In July 2015, Barack Obama said, "I will be the first sitting president to visit a federal prison. And I'm going to shine a spotlight on the issues because while the people in our prisons have made some mistakes, and sometimes big mistakes, they are also Americans, and we have to make sure that as they do their time and pay back their debt to the society, that we are increasing the possibility that they can turn their lives around. If folks have served their time and they're reinserted into society, they should be able to vote." I think Obama can agree that punishing someone after their time was paid is un-American-like and not something we Americans should stand for. Steve Chapman, columnist and editor-writer at the Chicago Tribune, said we should trust a felon's judgment. I know this sounds crazy, but here's his exact quote to make you better understand. "We let ex-cons marry, reproduce, buy beer, own property, and drive. They don't lose their freedom of religion, their right against self-incrimination, or their right not to have soldiers quartered in their home in time of war. But in many places, the assumption is that we can't be trusted to help choose our leader. If we thought criminals could never be reformed, we wouldn't have let them out of prison in the first place." Moving on to my next point. Our elections are affected by the felons not being able to vote. Did you know that 1 out of every 40 adults can't vote due to having a felony on their record? Should I remind you that bouncing checks can get you a felony? Once again, minor mistakes causing major problems. In 1972, 1.17 million Americans couldn't vote. And today, in 2016, 6.1 million Americans can't vote. That's 2.5% of the United States citizens without being able to vote. Another big effect of the election is the fact that many felons are minorities and they would vote Democratic. .8% of million Americans, that's 1 in 40, can't vote. 2.22 million of those Americans are of a minority race. Maine and Vermont are the only 2 states that allow voting while incarcerated and have no restrictions after your time served. And they both are majority white states. Mark Meredith, professor of politics science at the University of Pennsylvania, argued that ex-felons that registered overwhelmingly registered as Democrats. Of those discharge records that matched to at least one vote file record, 61.5% matched only to Democratic voters. In contrast, 25.5% matched only to voters records with no affiliation or affiliation with a minor party, while 9% match of the Republican Party. Leaving out such a big percent of Democratic voters make the elections even more of an advantage for the Republicans. Lastly, I think we should agree that taking their voting rights will also take away their voice in the community. 77% of ex-felons live back in their community and make them feel like they're part of the community. As you see on here, 51% have completed their sentence, 22% are still in prison, 18% are on probation. The number of Americans who cannot vote because they have been convicted of felony continues to grow. Losing one voting right perpetrates feeling of alienation, distrust of government, and a feeling of powerlessness. It makes a disenfranchisement less likely to engage with the contribute to their community. Weaver and Lerman found that wherever individuals are deprived of voting rights, their families, neighbors, fellow church members don't go to polls on election day either. That 6 million population who doesn't vote because of its involvement with the criminal justice system can become much better. In democracy, exercising one's right to vote is crucial to have a say in the political system. If you don't vote, you're relinquished your rights to have a voice in the society. Every citizen should have a voice and be represented in the government. I hope all of you will help me to persuade our opinionated country that felons are still citizens and should be allowed to vote. The facts are the facts. Voting is a right. We need their votes for a fair election, and felons deserve to have a voice. Let's stop punishing people for being human. They paid their debt to society. I hope you can agree with me that enough is enough. Felons deserve to be treated equally once they do their time for their crime.